supporting the most vulnerable populations. Carrie Smith is perfect for her to speak to this group and our membership. Thank you, Carrie Smith, for coming.
Thank you, John. Can I share my screen? I was trying to share the PowerPoint and it wouldn't let me.
Sure.
Sorry, guys. We'll give it just a minute and see if we can get that up. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah, it says host disabled participant sharing.
Pretty good.
Always technology, right?
Yes. It should be good now.
Okay, let me try again. And you'll have to let me know if you can see the screen.
Yep, we have it. Weatherization Assistance Program update. Thank you, Carrie Smith.
Awesome. Okay, and hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me today. In our short time together, I really want to highlight some key things that are happening at the Department of Energy, especially with the Weatherization program. So this past year, as you know, Weatherization moved into our new office. We're over at the State and Community Energy Office, and we are sharing that with SEP program, State Energy Program, and several other infrastructure programs. We moved out of EERE and are now under what is called the Undersecretary for Infrastructure. And so the SCIP, the State Community Energy Program, we call ourselves SCIP. Their office strategic priorities are to work with state and local organizations to accelerate the deployment of clean energy technologies, to catalyze local economic development, create jobs, reduce energy costs, kind of avoid pollution through place-based strategies, involving a wide range of government, community businesses, and other stakeholders, and delivering on those Justice 40 priorities. So I want to take a moment to give a shout out to our partners, our grantee, the the Ohio Department of Development, and the Ohio Regional Planning Commission for hosting a Secretary of Energy visit recently. So we're proud to kind of share this story. And if I could just take a minute and play this video for you, I think that you will appreciate the visit. It was done in Columbus, Ohio.
The state actually connected Kansas as organization because we want to make sure right. It's my understanding maybe that the savings of energy here
Oh, did we lose it?
about 60%. About 60% extrapolated. You're going to be paying about $341 a month, and on Weatherize, and with Weatherization, you'd be paying about $130 a month. So it's like a 60%. Is that right? Did you call them or did they call you?
Once I thought out that the Weatherization price reached out to me, and set everything in motion.
They came in and did an audit first.
They came out, they did the testing, ran their tests on the door, they put it in the bathroom, ventilation. They insulated the upstairs and weatherized around the doors.
Plug the bubble leaks.
Right, and then they did some things around the hot water tank. The fence on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, it was how much money all in from all players to be able to do this.
For this one, all the work on our property total about
$9,700, and you did not have to pay the insurance, and you're looking forward to the winter.
Yeah. Yes, we were plugging in electric heaters up there and everything because whatever was up there was going straight out the.
Right, you were heating the neighborhood.
Yeah, to help the summer too because we're running air filter there. It was pretty cold up there this summer instead of it just going out the walls.
You recommended that.
Oh yes, definitely.
Great.
I just want to again give a shout out to Ohio Department of Development and the subgrantee Ohio Regional Planning Commission for hosting that secretary visit. She's been out and about all over the country. She's very interested in weatherization and the work that we're doing. And I know how much work goes into hosting those visits. So again, I just really want to thank you for doing that, participating. So everybody's interested about funding and what's happening across the weatherization program. So here's a snapshot of the current weatherization assistance funding. The bipartisan infrastructure law added $3.2 billion in new funding for weatherization, along with funding for innovations and headquarters training and technical assistance activities. Our annual formula funding for the current program year, which we're operating under, is $299 million, and we have an additional $30 million in weatherization readiness funding. We also have some innovation project funding and headquarters training and technical assistance activities under the annual formula. So as you know, Congress has not approved a new budget. We're operating under a short-term continuing resolution at the moment. We're going to keep our grantees informed as soon as we're notified of any changes to that. But in the interim, we plan to release our red line version of our WPN 24-1 application. Hopefully the red line will go out this week, hoping to get it out before the end of the week. This will give our April 1st grantees time to start planning for next year. And as in the past, when we do not have an approved budget, the grantees will use prior year numbers for planning purposes only. And then if Congress approves a weatherization budget, then we will go ahead and issue the WPN 24-2 with those final allocation numbers. So when you look at the $3.2 billion in BIL, the bipartisan infrastructure law funding, you can kind of see this. I like this slide because it shows you just, the impact that this funding is having across the country. And the darker the color, the more funding. So lighter color, less funding, darker color, more funding. And you can see, I'll show you in a second, Ohio is right at the top of the list with that BIL funding. So here again is the allocation and how it ranges across those grantees. And then in Ohio, in particular, you guys are in the top 5 of the highest allocations. We know that it's going to take an incredible amount of work, both at the sub-grantee level, the contractor level, and in coordination with your state grantee office to successfully execute this. So we are encouraging you to work with your partners across the state to make sure that the funds are deployed and we're serving the community, but also reach outside the state and talk with your peers in other states to share best practices and ideas, attend conferences like NESCAP, Energy Out West, Home Performance, so that you can learn some of those best practices that are happening across the states. So looking at the BIL funding, it's dispersed in 3 different tranches for us. So last year we dispersed the first 15% of those funds to help the grantees kind of ramp up and start to prepare for planning purposes. And then the second tranche of funds was released just recently this year. And those funds are really meant to start the production side of the work. So at the second tranche, grantees had to submit a state plan on how they were going to deploy those dollars, and then they received that remaining 35%. So pretty much all of our grantees, except 4, are now at that 50% mark. So about half of that $3.2 billion has been awarded, and we are starting to see production numbers come in. So the remaining 50% of the bill funds will be released upon completion of 30% of those planned bill units. So once the grantees have reached that 30% of unit completions, and they've been focusing on their monitoring plan and inspections, they are making sure that they're doing their quality control efforts. DOE will come out and do some monitoring, and then we will look to release that remaining 50% of those funds. So now that we're kind of at that halfway point where funds are out, we're going to start to look at production units and start to work closely with the grantee state offices on the next 50%. So one of the other new pieces of funding that's come to the Weatherization Network, as you know, is the Weatherization Readiness Fund. So Congress authorized the first batch of funding, that $15 million for readiness in program year 2022. And for program year 23, that number doubled. So it's up to $30 million. The readiness funds are meant to help prevent weatherization deferrals and can be used for a variety of repairs as outlined in the grantee state plan. So in March of this past year, we issued WPN 23-4, which allowed for an expansion of the scope of the Weatherization Readiness Fund through this guidance. We clarified that Weatherization Readiness funding could be used on homes served by either the DOE formula funds or bill funds, and clarified that homes could receive Weatherization Readiness funding in one program year and the weatherization could be completed in the next program year. So we really want to thank Ohio. Don't know if you guys are aware, but you've been leading the pack with Weatherization Readiness Fund expenditures, and it looks like you spent the majority of your funds last year. So we are going to look to learn from your successes and understand more about how you're able to do that. All right, so some other things that DOE has been working on your behalf is some interagency coordination efforts. And since 2010, many of you know DOE has had a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Housing. And over the years, we've developed a strong partnership with both a Department of HUD and with HHS Health and Human Services. So last year, we started a bigger collaborative effort, and we expanded that reach. So it's DOE, HHS, HUD, and we've brought in the Department of Agriculture to our interagency working group. And the goal of this group is to improve and streamline processes, to reduce administrative burden on local agencies so that we can better braid funding across the programs and maximize services to low-income families. So we are currently working on updating that MOU, and we are meeting monthly with those federal partners to find better ways that we can collaborate together to support you. So some of the collaborative work just mentioned resulted in our WPN this past year ago, 22-5, to expand client eligibility in the Weatherization Assistance Program. So historically, we've worked partnership with LIHEAP and HHS on the eligibility of categorical eligibility for low-income partners on the HHS LIHEAP side. And 22-5 allows for categorical eligibility with any HUD-funded program that is means tested at 80% of the area median income. So it was kind of an expansion of some of the previous work we've been doing with HHS. And then recently we republished the latest and greatest HUD public housing lists to make it easier for you at the grantee and sub-grantee level to be able to identify those properties that meet that means testing. And the example of some of the expanded HUD means tested programs include lead, hazard control, the multifamily assisted properties, public housing, vouchers, the VASH, and the home investment partnership programs. So on the policy side, I've been doing a lot of work on the policy side to help keep you guys updated on things that are happening at the Department of Energy. So two of the most recent weatherization program notices that we issued this past year were around our innovation work. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the innovation work in just a little bit and share more about the CERC and E&I awards that are available to the network. But two of those program notices were really geared towards that innovation program and the CERC program. And then we issued several memos recently to kind of help in areas around procurement resources. We updated the priority list to meet some of the updated requirements around, I think, SEER 2. We've added some additional information about the process for moving from, the Weatherization Assistance Suite 8 over to the web-based version. We expanded some information about what's coming with data collection and a little bit more about what's happening in the next year around that data collection piece. We provided some additional guidance around doing work on tribal lands when it comes to historic preservation. And then, of course, we republished those updated HUD lists. So things that are coming soon, we always ask, what is DOE working on now? We have been listening to the network. So as you know, we've had several listening sessions over the last probably 3 or 4 months. We're trying to do our best to adapt where we can through guidance, things that we have the ability to do that are not statutory or regulatory. And so we are looking at the vehicle and equipment purchases to find ways to streamline that process for the grantee and the sub-grantee, and hope to issue some upcoming guidance on that. We're looking at the monitoring guidance right now and the impacts on bill and how we get to that next 50%. And so we'll be issuing some updates around monitoring guidance. We're also looking on the innovation work to understand how we can best support solar PV and the potential of how to address warranties related to solar PV. We have our WPN BIL 22-1, which is really the guidance around bill. And we're looking to do some updates for you all around Davis-Bacon. And we've heard the network. We understand the challenges around the average cost per unit. And we're working with our GC right now on how we can address that average cost per unit for you on that 5-year BIL grant. And then our 24-1 one application red line should go out this week with a follow-up on the official WPN shortly thereafter. So if you're interested in getting weatherization program notices and memos, I would encourage you to go over to our website and go to the energy.gov skip WAP weatherization program notice page. Enter your email address under the get updates, and then you will always be notified when a new notice or memorandum is issued. So Davis-Bacon compliance, this is a hot topic for everybody, and we know grantees and sub-grantees have been waiting for more guidance to come out regarding Davis-Bacon compliance. Remember, this impacts multifamily buildings with 5 or more units, and it's only with bill funding. So it is coming. I'm going to show you a slide in a minute to show you our implementation schedule. We're working right now internally and with a couple of external partners to test the new Davis-Bacon compliance software system that DOE has approved, and it's going to help with certifying those payrolls. So we learned a lot of lessons during the ARA period, and we took those lessons and we've deployed a system that is going to help support you in the network with any of those multifamily properties that you'd like to use bill funding for. So here is the tentative implementation schedule that we're working on. Currently, we have 3 sub-grantees and 2 grantees that are playing in what we call the sandbox with LCP Tracker. It's a test environment, and we are building the system right now, so getting it ready for deployment. And we're using those sub-grantees and grantees to help make sure that we set the system up correctly for the weatherization network, and that we're building a good desk guide to be able to roll out. So the plan is to have that go live around December timeframe for you, and we'll be issuing more information as we move closer to that date. The other new development that came out of some of the new funding is the Build America, Buy America requirements, also known as BABA. And this impacts all federal assistance awards. So it's not only just the bill, but all federal assistance awards in weatherization. It's really going to be limited to public housing authority buildings. So it's limited to public owned properties and properties that are serving a public purpose. So we did receive some clarification, and just because a property, if a property is privately owned, but it gets HUD funding, it does not make it subject to, right? It is just those publicly owned, public housing authority buildings that would be subject to BABA, or something that would be for a public purpose. And in weatherization, public purpose is not typically something that we would provide through weatherization. So it's really just going to be those publicly owned housing authority properties. And we do have a memorandum 104 that we issued that provides more information about BABA. And then recently, the Department of Energy also published a separate website on the DOE page that is focused on BABA, because BABA doesn't just impact weatherization. It impacts a lot of many federal programs. So DOE does have a separate page for that. There is a waiver process if you do have a public housing property that you'd wish to perform weatherization, and it is subject to BABA, and you do feel that you would fall into one of the 3 categories for a waiver. There is a process where you can submit that. Memorandum 104 provides that information. You can also go to the website that's provided here, and you can see what waivers have been submitted and what waivers have been approved so far across the system, not just in weatherization. I would encourage you, if you have any specific questions about BABA, to work with your state office. They can reach out to our DOE project officer for guidance, and we can certainly reach out to our general counsel if there are specific questions. So workforce development. Want to touch a little bit on some of the things happening around workforce. We recognize the challenges that you're all faced with when it comes to workforce development. We've been working to develop resources to assist weatherization grantees and sub-grantees in this space. So we do have a workforce development toolkit that can be found on the Department of Energy website. In there, you're going to find workforce development information and resources that are applicable to weatherization. So topics such as, funding workforce development activities, building a workforce pipeline, hiring and onboarding, training, upskilling and professional development, staff retention, some company culture, the DEI initiatives, and contractor and other resources. And in each one of these tabs, There are case studies and fact sheets and additional links to tools and resources. So I'd highly encourage you to go check that out and see if there are any resources there that you could consider using within your departments. We will also continue to be working on workforce development. Some of our innovation grants are focused on workforce development. So we're going to learn as much as we can from those grants on things that we could deploy through the weatherization program going forward. So weatherization work has and will continue to be a lifelong career path for people. This slide in particular is from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, so IREC. It's their Green Buildings Career Map, and it's a highly interactive tool that explores careers in both green building and energy efficiency. And the map covers 55 careers across 4 major sectors and the green building industry and energy efficiency industry. So charting over 300 different possible progression routes for folks to choose a career in green building and energy efficiency. We know that to spend this $3.5 billion in total for bipartisan infrastructure funding, it's imperative that we have a strong workforce. And through your work on finding qualified workers, investing in their training, we will be able to successfully serve that 250,000 households that we hope to serve through the BUILD program. So each year, DOE allocates, as you know, training and technical assistance funding to our grantees, and they deploy those dollars back down to the sub-grantee level to train and certify the workforce. We have 2 different paths of training. Comprehensive really focuses on the job task analyses. So in those areas of energy auditor and the quality control inspectors. The specific training is really single issue items. It's addressing any deficiencies that are found in the field, any federal requirements, that are coming down. We would encourage you to use your specific training dollars for that. Management, administrative, fiscal, conference trainings, all of those things are covered under the specific training category. And there are 22 accredited training centers across the country. So you can definitely see from this map, they're all over the country, and excited, as you know, to share that Ohio is fortunate to have an IREC accredited training center in your state. They're available to be able to provide that timely and current best practice training for you guys. So we really want to give a shout out to the Corporation for Ohio Appalachian Development, who operates that Ohio Weatherization Training Center, and just commend you guys on your ability to continue to invest in training there in Ohio. So as I wrap up, I want to just make sure I go through some of the innovation possibilities that are out there. If you guys are interested in testing new technologies and new materials, deploying some things that are kind of outside the weatherization program but are related, there are opportunities for funding. So 2 of them are available coming soon. So we have the Sustainable Energy Resources for Consumers. This is also known as CERC. And Enhancements and Innovation, also known as the E&I grants. So CERC grants in particular support renewable energy and new technologies. E&I grants can support place-based readiness, health and safety, workforce development, and renewable energy innovations. So I'll go a little bit into detail on both of those so that you have a better understanding of what's available with those. DOE will be announcing the next round of CERC funding coming soon. So $70 million funding opportunity will be available very soon. You'll see more information through program guidance on that. We do have first round 5 awards that were released in program year 2022 for CERC. And the second rounds, as I mentioned, are coming soon. And then on the E&I awards, we have closed the opportunity. They just closed on August 31st. And we did issue first round awards this year. So second year just closed, but first year 21 awards were released in March. So we're looking forward to learning as much as we can from those awards, and we'll be sharing information as those are underway and what we can learn from the outcome of those new and innovative work. Okay. So the E&I program, to give you a little bit deeper dive on the enhancement and innovation, the statutory purpose of those E&I grants is to increase the number of dwelling units occupied by low-income persons that receive weatherization assistance by making those dwelling units weatherization ready. So similar to the weatherization readiness. They're also meant to promote the deployment of renewable energy in dwelling units that are occupied by low-income persons, to ensure healthy indoor air environments by enhancing or expanding health and safety measures and resources available to dwelling units that are occupied by low-income persons, to disseminate the new methods and best practices among entities providing weatherization assistance, to encourage entities providing weatherization assistance to hire and retain employees who are individuals from communities in which assistance is provided, and from communities or groups that are underrepresented in the home energy performance workforce, including religious and ethnic minorities, women, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and those who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. The E&I funding projects are subject to Davis-Bacon requirements for buildings with 5 or more units, but they are not subject to average cost per unit or savings to investment ratio. So that's the uniqueness, and that enables you to test a few things. Grantees may use these funds to coordinate braiding resources with other federal funds and encourages the partnerships with those sources. It does have goals and objectives around leveraging Justice 40 and diversity, equity, inclusion, and community benefits. So the CERC funding is appropriated through regular formula funds. So if and when WAP appropriations reach that 275 million mark, the Secretary of Energy has the authority to use up to 2% of the appropriations for CERC projects. So this also includes, this is why we're able to follow a lot of the weatherization regulations, because it falls within that spectrum, but these projects do not need to meet SIR or average cost per unit. So that is the difference. The rest of the weatherization regulations apply to CERC. So for CERC grants, the objective is to really expand the program in materials and renewable technologies not covered by the regular weatherization formula program. It's really meant to test those new strategies. So CERC has 4 statutory priorities. The project must benefit low and moderate income energy consumers. That has the potential that we can replicate this work long-term into the weatherization network. It impacts health and safety and energy costs, and partnerships with other entities, including those that will contribute funds to support future projects. So that's really the focus of CERC. CERC projects can include technologies like solar PV, solar hot water tanks, tankless or on-demand water heaters, heat pumps, small-scale wind, cool roofs, walls, and other types of technologies. So as I mentioned, CERC funds are not subject to that SIR and average cost per unit. These funds may be used on homes currently being weatherized or homes that eventually will be weatherized. You may return to a previously weatherized home with without DOE approval if these homes you don't need our approval basically to go back to those homes using CERC funds. CERC cannot be used to purchase Appendix A types of measures. So again, we're looking for you to do measures that are outside the normal weatherization activities. CERC funds are required to go through the grantee. So you're required to work with your state office if you're interested in applying for CERC funds. You have to start with your grantee and get their permission, and then work together collectively with the grantee to secure those funds. So again, just looking again at the flexibilities with CERC. CERC funds can be braided with the recent, I'm sure you've heard about the home energy rebate program that is being launched through state energy offices. These funds can be used to be braided with those program dollars. We see that there's great potential for maximizing these funds when using the home electrification program dollars through the home energy rebate, followed by using CERC to install things like solar panels on low-income homes. So really starting to truly braid some of these dollars. The model presents an opportunity for states with low natural gas prices to not only assist low-income homes switching to electric heating, but also reduce their overall energy burden through those solar energy savings. So really looking at, how do we target home electrification, but also make sure we're reducing those costs for that low-income user. So on August 21st, we released WPN or Weatherization Notice 112, communicating that our intent to publish a funding opportunity of 70 million is coming. I anticipate that we'll see that next announcement where the official funds are open for application. We should see that in the coming month. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested in applying for CERC funding. So we strongly encourage grantees and sub-grantees to apply for these. Again, it provides you an opportunity to test those things outside the normal weatherization program. with hopes that we could learn from them and look to deploy those measures in future weatherization updates. So again, no savings to investment required, no average cost per unit on those CERC dollars, allows the network to install renewable energy systems, alleviate energy burden for low-income households, and funds those new technologies. So if you're interested in learning more about the innovation opportunities that are available to you in your network, we have a whole web page set up for that. You can go to the Weatherization Innovation page to learn more about those opportunities. So that is my highlight of everything that's been happening in the weatherization program. I want to thank you guys so much for the opportunity to share these highlights with you. I want to thank again Ohio Department of Development and the Ohio Partners for Affordable Energy for hosting this conference every year. And I personally want to thank each of you for your commitment to the program. I know how hard you work every day to serve the low-income communities. We know that you are challenged with workforce issues. We know that the average cost per unit has been a little bit of a challenge on the BIL funding, and we're working to try to support opportunities to modify and provide guidance where we can in those areas. So look forward to working with you this next year.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? Anyone?
I do. Can you tell us the number that they might be thinking about for the average cost per unit?
It was really hard to hear, so maybe John, you could repeat the question for me.
Can you tell me what they're talking about for the average cost per unit, the amount of money that they're thinking of moving to?
On the bill funding?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have an answer yet. I can tell you that we've been working with our general counsel to address this because we know having that fixed average cost per unit is a challenge, and that this is a 5-year grant. So we are looking at, where we can issue guidance at our level, at the Department of Energy department level, to modify that average cost per unit, knowing that it's a 5-year span of time and that there is inflationary costs. So we hope to have guidance. It's under review right now. So I hope to have guidance out very shortly to address that for you.
Also, can you tell me, are they looking to streamline the Davis-Bacon paperwork? In previous years, Davis-Bacon was sort of a full-time staff person for contractor and or an agency to go with.
It was hard to hear the question, but I think you want to know about streamlining the Davis-Bacon paperwork process.
Yes, correct.
Yes. So with the LCP tracker system that DOE has purchased, that's exactly what it's meant to do, is really streamline that process for you at the local level. Your contractor will have access to the system. There'll be various levels of access depending on if you're the grantee providing oversight or you're the contractor implementing the Davis-Bacon activities, and it's all going to be electronic. It's going to streamline that process for you with a click of a button. So that's why we are testing it right now with 2 grantees and 3 sub-grantees, so that we can work through that whole spectrum and have a good desk guide when the system goes live, hopefully in December. So the network will receive training and a desk guide. And again, the whole reason we did that was to try to streamline that process for you.
Great. Thank you very much, Carrie Smith, for joining us today from DOE. We appreciate it. Ohio appreciates you. And nice round of applause for Carrie Smith from DOE.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your conference, everybody.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.